A home sweet home.
For more than 2 months, 76-year-old David Turner says he's been living, eating, and sleeping in his car.
The expense of everything is just crazy.
The condo market is turning into a complete disaster for many people who are trapped into it.
Go emotionally blackmail your parents for $150K down payment. It's not hard. Stop being lazy.
What?
We're going to get into their stories and much more. And before we do, lest we forget, thank you to all who served and sacrificed. So let's get right into this. Condo is cash flow negative and stressing me out. Should I sell or hold on to it? Because my parents want me to. And we can guess the demographics that they're going to be in for his or her parents here.
All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
But I don't know why they're posting this on the personal finance subreddit. I mean, this is where you don't go for financial advice. But anyway, about 4 years ago, my parents helped me buy a pre-con under my name. It completed 2 years ago and I'm responsible for the mortgage. I don't live there. I rent it out for $2,100 a month, but the mortgage is $3,100 and the strata fee is $335. That means I'm paying about $1,300 out of pocket each month just to keep it. The strata fees are going up next year and I've had to find new tenants roughly every 6 months, which has been stressful and time consuming. My parents see it as a long-term investment and want me to hold on to it, but it honestly feels like a financial and emotional burden. If I sold it, I could rent a small place for around $1,400 a month and have more flexibility to pursue my own goals instead of worrying about this property all the time. I currently live at home with my parents, so it's absolutely insane the type of investments people got into on the advice of their parents.
Yeah, boy.
Just insane amounts of money as well that people have put into it. And it's just because the leverage that the banks give is obviously tilted towards real estate. They want people to get into real estate because they believe this is the one-trick pony that can never go wrong, even though it's going wrong quickly. And we're going to get into that. But this just dropped as well, which was very interesting because the banks, they cannot agree on where they think interest rates are going to be in the future. You've basically got National and Scotiabank, which are now saying there's going to be hikes in 2026. Yes, you heard me right. Interest rate hikes in 2026.
No! God, please, no! No!
RBC, TD, CIBC holding at 2.25%, so no cuts, no hikes from here on out. BMO calling for cuts to 2%. Which camp are you in? And that's a question. Let me know in the comments below. And then you've got this coming from the Globe and Mail, if you can believe it now. They're even calling it how the Toronto condo bubble burst. It just came out. It's not a crash though, but it is bursting.
The condominium market is absolutely dead right now.
So it's absolutely hilarious, but just take a listen to this. Investors who'd gambled on flipping pre-construction units and were left holding an asset they couldn't afford to close on, cramped downtown one-bedrooms that were sitting on the market for months with little prospect of moving, eye-watering losses, and agents who'd gone AWOL. In fact, the rapidly accelerating crash had become a topic of obsessive debate in the condo industry. So it's really interesting what's happening now. People are starting slowly to call it a crash, and after the fact, they're going to call it a crash anyway. I just want to make that clear. But, you know, they're talking about everything that we talked about many years ago, even back in 2021 when people were just going into this and they were using pre-construction condos like options, literally just gambling back and forth. And a lot of people now, they are in serious trouble. They can't afford to close. They can't get the mortgage. They're getting their mortgage denied. Obviously, we covered that mortgages can be denied. You do not have the right to renew, amend, or extend the mortgage. Renewal, amendment, or extension of the mortgage is at our discretion. Your mortgage lender does not have to renew your mortgage. So FOMO, they agreed, was also a factor in 2021. Yeah, no shit. When interest rates were almost nil, resale prices were skyrocketing and lineups for pre-construction units snaked around the block. And really, when you have lineups for anything, you should really be questioning whether you should be buying that, because we've seen it with silver and gold right before the prices really started coming down really rapidly as well. But that's always a sign, it seems, when you've got people lining up around the block that this market is way overdone. There's too much euphoria euphoria. What's the catalyst for condo buyers looking to come back, Mr. Lang asked? That's something I'm grappling with all the time. But what's really interesting is what they put this down to is policy failures, high fees, slow municipal approvals, and obviously all those play a factor. We know Canada obviously has massive red tape and regulation issues, and definitely those are headwinds for the condo market. But really, what has really happened with the condo market crash? Only 53 new condo sales in the last month, which is completely insane. But it's this. Ontario's big cities saw investors buy up to 85% of condos, fueled by government incentives. This was October 2024. And just take a look at this. Investors own over 2 in 5 of Ontario condos. They bought most of the new supply. And now you wonder why nobody is buying, and you're blaming it on government red tape and regulation. And sure, that is a factor, but the main factor is the fact the investor is gone. So if you're asking the question, how is this going to start improving again? The investor has to come back. And no investor, no matter how stupid they are, is going to come back and buy a potentially cash flow negative investment in a declining market. It's just not going to happen. And you can see the percentages here. London, 85.5% of new construction condos were snapped up by investors. And you look at some of this: Kitchener, Waterloo, Niagara, Hamilton, Toronto, Oshawa, Kingston, Ottawa, all these places, just massive. And 43.5% were investors. So obviously the market share of investors was extremely high back then, over half in a lot of places. And it wasn't just in Ontario. As I showed last week, half of BC's new condo apartments are investor owned. This was 2023 that Better Dwelling put this out. And you can see here, Fort St. John, for instance, was 90%. Vernon, 69.2%. Kamloops, 61.8%. Kelowna, over 50%. So there was a massive amount of investment into these new condos, and they were all investors, or a large chunk of them were investors. So obviously demand has completely plummeted, because not only have you seen the investors retreat, you've seen the actual average buyer retreat as well. So there's pretty much nobody left. So now they're having to really offer incentives and make it more like a casino, because everybody loves to gamble these days. They're trying to make it like some type of lottery, essentially. Flurry of incentives as Vancouver presale market grinds to a halt. The presale condo market in Vancouver has slowed significantly, causing some developers to resort to novel marketing strategies, some experts say. They are getting creative, in some cases defraying strata fees, guaranteeing rental income, offering freebies like air conditioning, extra parking, extra lockers, or interior customization. There's even the chance to win your purchase presale for free in a lawn game tournament. Right now, with a very soft market, the developers need to offer incentives.
The condominium market is absolutely dead right now.
And then, yes, this is happening, which is just completely disgusting and insane. People are stealing the pick your own apples. Someone stole £150 worth with garbage bags. They filled their car full. This comes from Table Salt on X. He posts some amazing stuff. But take a listen to how insane this is.
Across Ontario, local farmers are reporting a major surge in theft, with thieves targeting pick your own orchards, roadside produce stands, and even the fields themselves. Our producer, Michael Hiscock, takes us there.
We are seeing customers come in reusable bags and folding them into their pockets, and then when they're out in the orchard, filling them and trying to leave without paying for them. We have unfortunately seen customers put them in their strollers, their wagons, overfilling, and just kind of trying to take as much as they can without paying. The biggest bust for the pick your own we've seen is somebody tried to take about 150 pounds extra than what they've paid for, so there was quite a few reusable grocery bags.
You said 150 pounds?
Yes.
150 pounds worth of pick your own. I mean, this is just completely insane, and just shows the level that Canada is at now in terms of theft. Like, crime is almost legal. I should get that on a t-shirt, but it's becoming the norm in Canada. Unfortunately, you're seeing this shit happen, and it is disgusting. Obviously, local businesses are really suffering like this one from all this theft, but you have to wonder why is this happening? Let me know in the comments and chat below. I want to hear what your thoughts are and why you think this is happening. And then you've got this: more and more seniors are losing their homes and being forced to live in shelters, tents, and even their cars, like this 76-year-old, and it's only getting worse. Thankfully, we give Ukraine billions of dollars to fix this, and this comes from Ryan on X here, so take a listen to this.
Andy, I'm near an emergency shelter downtown, and like elsewhere in the country, beds fill fast. But seniors are showing up in higher numbers, and experts tell me they're struggling more than ever.
A home sweet home.
For more than 2 months, 76-year-old David Turner says he's been living, eating, and sleeping in his car.
The expense of everything is just crazy.
On good days, he to the Charlottetown Marina to greet tourists.
Welcome to PEI, sir.
Turner says his debt mounted, and after a couple months behind on rent, his landlord evicted him. Still, he feels more fortunate than others because he has a pension. It helps, but not enough to rent right now.
Seniors are struggling because of the cost of living, the cost of rent.
It's just completely crazy that you've got seniors like this who are just living on the street, and we're not even talking about Toronto. We're talking about Prince Edward Island. So it's just crazy how this has happened right across the country. This cost of living crisis has touched so many people, and they're out there living in that desperate depression. And then you've got when Mark Carney said Canadians will have to make sacrifices, he meant more job losses, higher cost of living, and more poverty. And you've got CN Rail that's laying off 400 managers as tariffs take a bite out of shipping volumes. And obviously you just had the massive layoffs that were announced at UPS as well. And then you've got UPS last week, they cut 48,000 jobs. Really, really interesting and obviously terrible news. Massive global company. And obviously if they're cutting jobs, that's not a good thing. And this is frontline operations too. So this isn't just CN Rail. Obviously we're seeing more and more those effects from the tariffs that are going to impact the global economy. And we're actually going to get into more data on that in a second. And then Mark Nixon, he posts some fantastic stuff on X. Here it is, Canada. Thousands of seniors across the country are living in their vehicles after paying taxes for 50 years. It's like they're living in the aftermath of a Category 5 hurricane created by the Liberals. 7 million to Jamaica instead. And obviously we know the fact is most of this is not going to be going to Jamaica. It's obviously going to be going into the pockets of bureaucrats and NGOs.
At this moment, the request from Jamaica has been for humanitarian aid. That is what we are stepping up to provide.
Always this stepping up bull.
That are requested, and indeed this humanitarian effort of 7 million in total, broken down into 5 and 2 million blocks.
And then you've got this: US recession widens. About 82% of Americans now live in regions experiencing an economic downturn, highest share since 2020. So obviously the economy is booming in the United States as well. I mean, it's just absolutely hilarious. I mean, just think of tariffs as taxes, because that's what they really are at the end of the day. And then somebody posted in response to this, was Elon right again? The Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year. And you know, it might not be a technical recession, but it definitely is a recession for the middle class and for most people. It's just the fact that the AI data center spending is hiding the fact that there's a recession going on, and most of that money is just directed into certain people's pockets and is being incinerated by companies like OpenAI.
Me in? It's cold out here. I know you're home. Don't make me wait. If you don't let me in, I'll take your ChatGPT access.
And then liquidity stress is rising. Banks are tapping the Fed's repo facility at the highest level since 2020 as well. And you can see what's going on here. There's a funding squeeze that is going on right now that could be impacting those regional banks again in the United States and overall the banking system as a whole, because it's incredibly interconnected between Canada and the United States, Europe and the UK UK, everywhere. The system is very interconnected, as you saw with Credit Suisse and the banking crisis in the US before. And then you've got this. Yes, Canada is in a recession. Obviously, we talked about that when the last GDP report came out over a month ago, I think it was. But that's the fact. Canada is in a recession. Does it really matter? Does the technical definition actually matter? Of course it doesn't, because what people are feeling on the ground, that's what really matters.
Most concerning is that unless we change some other things, our standard of living as a country, Canadians, is going to be lower than it otherwise would have been.
And you know what the job market is like, what inflation is really like, that's what really matters. And it's just the fact that GDP numbers are so distorted now by government spending that you can't even rely on them. It's just absolutely insane to the extent this has happened. And I saw this posted by Ezra Levant on X. The daughter of the oligarch who owns the Globe and Mail lost nearly $100 million on crypto trades recommended by a psychic. I mean, it's absolutely insane. You've got to laugh, but the way these oligarchs just throw money around at the top, it's no wonder that the politicians just do whatever they want, because they're not making a lot of money off what they earn from the government, even though they're making way more than the average Canadian and doing such a crappy job. But the reality is they make all their money from what happens after politics, and you're seeing that with Justin Trudeau as well right now. And then you've got this. Toronto is not a world-class city. People stranded in the city after the World Series. So this was a couple of weeks ago now, but still, it's just absolutely insane what happened, obviously. And loads of people were stranded, frustrated, obviously. And Toronto is meant to be this world-class city. I mean, this is where the average detached home costs $1 million or near to $1 million. It's completely insane. And by the way, that government data that we were talking about, this is Shadow Stats. They also publish charts for unemployment as well. Somebody asked about this and I wanted to show it in a video because I think it's really interesting and important to mention that when you look at unemployment, obviously that is subtracting a lot of people who have given up supposedly on searching for a job. And that means that they're not counted anymore in the unemployment rate, even though they're unemployed. They just couldn't find a job. And basically, if you actually account for that and add in all the other things that the government misses to make the unemployment rate look lower, this is what it would look like in the United States. The unemployment rate would actually be around 25%. And obviously in Canada, with the base unemployment rate being measured the same way as the BLS in the US and unemployment being around 4-5% in the United States and Canada's being over 7%, what is it going to be in Canada? You're probably talking about a realistic unemployment rate of maybe 30%. I know it's completely insane. And if you use the broad number, it could be as high as 15%, which is completely insane to think about, but that would literally be depression level stuff. And that, I think, is really the crux of what's going on in Canada. You are seeing that Canada is in a depression. Whether people want to accept it or not is a different story, but the reality is when you look at what's going on, when you look at the lines at food banks, when you look at the lines for just entry-level jobs that should be easy for students and young people to get, they're just not easy to get. They're completely out of reach, and that is leading to a lot more desperation and a lot more crime, and unfortunately these things are not going to reverse. If you've enjoyed this video, I would highly recommend that you check out this video here, which was about a guy in the condo market who had a $400,000 mortgage on a condo that he didn't own. Once again, thank you to all who served and sacrificed, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.